The man reborn as the villain in the novel turned around and sold his hotel at a low price to the male lead. He didn't expect that troubles would arise just after completing the transaction of the hotel. Male lead's subordinate was successfully sent to the police station. But he was also taken to the police station for questioning due to his previous role as the store manager. Unexpectedly, his inner thoughts were heard by Emily. This not only cleared his suspicion, but also provided a crucial lead in solving the case. As the leader of the Dragon Soul group, the male lead had to come forward to deal with the matter, even revealing his own identity. Emily, however, did not feel shocked by this. She coldly refused Chris's visit. Chris became a little anxious after hearing this. Pointing at Theo, he said, "He is innocent in this matter. He only took over Moon Hotel a few days ago. The previous owner of Moon Hotel was the one you should be going after." Theo widened his eyes. "What does this have to do with me? I was not involved. The police have already finished their investigation. I am innocent." "Silly Chris, don't try to pin the blame on me. I didn't commit murder at the hotel. If anyone should be caught, it should be you." After hearing Theo's heartfelt words, Emily looked at Chris and said, "I don't need you to teach me how to do things. The legal and responsible person at the hotel now is Brooks. I will arrest him." "You are his boss. It's the same as Moon Hotel being your property. That works out perfectly. You should also be prepared to be investigated." Chris was so angry that his face turned green. What kind of logic is this _0? Theo, on the other hand, was watching the excitement from the side. Is this plot not quite right? By now, Chris should have improved his favorability. The kid deliberately went to catch the pickpocket to create a first meeting. He even went to buy a bag of plastic bottles, saying it was for helping the old lady who collects recyclables. With these two waves of favorability, Emily should have fallen in love with him by now. The plot must have collapsed again. "Officer, hurry up and arrest him. A man like him should be in jail. It's a waste if he doesn't go." Emily's eyes darkened. Even the initial encounter was orchestrated by this guy named Chris. He's really disgusting. Chris suppressed his anger and pointed at Theo, self-righteously saying, "Officer, I can cooperate with your investigation. But the person you should really investigate is him. I suspect he intentionally sold the hotel at a low price to frame my friend." Theo was about to retort when Emily cut in. "Is it not allowed for someone from a wealthy family to do this? He bought the hotel to confess his love to his girlfriend." Chris suddenly trembled with anger, recalling the humiliating scene at the hotel that day. After listening to Emily's inner thoughts for a long time, she had already decided that Chris was definitely not a good person. At the same time, she had also confirmed that Theo was innocent. And after he discovered the criminal clues, he immediately sent an email to himself. What does this indicate? He believes that he is worthy of unconditional trust. Otherwise, he would not have entrusted such important clues to himself. On the side, Chris's forehead was bulging with blue veins. Emily, on the other hand, was surprisingly gentle in her attitude towards this guy. As for her attitude towards herself, she was cold and distant, as if she saw an enemy. At this moment, the office door was pushed open from the outside. Quinn walked in from the door, followed by bodyguards and lawyers. Upon seeing Quinn walk in, Chris, who was just filled with anger moments ago, instantly felt better. He was even slightly touched. Although this girl talked like she wanted nothing to do with him, she still came rushing over when he was in trouble. He smirked mischievously, ready to speak. Unexpectedly, before he could finish speaking, Quinn walked up to Theo and softly expressed concern. The man was reborn as the villain in the novel. He just cleared his name in the crime case at the Moon Hotel. He happened to encounter the drama of meeting his ex and current partners. The two locked eyes. In an instant, it felt like the temperature in the entire room dropped. Seeing the two women come face to face was like seeing a clash of fire and water. Theo was completely dumbfounded. He had actually heard long ago that the two women couldn't get along and rarely appeared together in one place. But since you two can't get along, why drag me into it? He was just about to run away when Shirley came up and hugged his other arm. She glanced at Quinn and said, "Isn't he your fiancé? Do you know what he likes to eat? What brand of cigarettes does he smoke? Does he prefer black stockings or white stockings?" Quinn was really caught off guard. He decided to retaliate with a big move. "Is it important to know these things? As long as he likes me, that's enough. The entire Sioux region knows he likes me. He even threw me a birthday banquet a few days ago." Sure enough, Shirley was instantly a little irritated. So she gritted her teeth and simply took out her phone. Theo's face changed drastically the moment he saw her movement. He was about to stop Shirley's crazy behavior when Emily slammed the table in anger. Theo was so scared that he quickly dragged the two women out of the office. And Chris, standing on the side, had a face uglier than if he had eaten a dead fly. After leaving the Western City Sub-Bureau, Theo looked at the two women helplessly and said, "Are you planning to tear me in half and take me back?" Fortunately, at this moment, a luxury car stopped in front of him. Theo was seen being held by two women, and Elias seemed somewhat hesitant to speak. What's going on here? At this time, the two women also felt embarrassed about being so angry. They both let go of Theo at the same time. After learning that Theo was fine, Elias walked over with a big smile and hugged Theo. Then he noticed Quinn's two daughters. They were staring at him with murderous eyes. They definitely remembered the last time he took Theo to the Galaxy Club. When they left, Theo quickly took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a drag to calm his nerves. At this moment, Elias's face looked tired as he stood up and said, "Brother, there's nothing urgent, so I'll go back to rest first. Let's have a drink next time. I've been exhausted during this period. I can't sleep well and have nightmares every day." Just as Elias left, Theo remembered the plot of the Qin family from the original book. Elias's discomfort was due to the feng shui issue of the old house. The root of the problem was a jade Buddha that Elias bought back a week ago. The jade Buddha was tampered with by Chris. After Elias bought it back, it belonged to the Qin family. The feng shui was greatly affected. The original auspicious feng shui location turned into an inauspicious one. At the moment when the Qin family was in crisis, Chris intervened to save them. In the end, the people of the Qin family revered him, as if he were a deity, showing immense respect towards him. The young miss of the Qin family also developed a strong liking for him as a result, gradually falling under his influence. Just as Theo was recollecting the plot, the system's voice suddenly sounded. The host successfully survived the Western City branch plot. The reward is the opportunity to cultivate the yin-yang boundless skill, which can only be used once. According to the system introduction, once the ancient skill yin-yang boundless skill is cultivated to perfection, it can rebound double the damage received back to the attacker. It's just too annoying to have it limited to one-time use. On the other hand, Chris was left in the office. Emily very thoughtfully handcuffed him. In her mind, Chris was already no different from a criminal. After Chris was handcuffed, his face remained calm, but he was extremely angry inside. He had originally thought that with his relationship with Emily, doing a record or something like that shouldn't take too long. But now, he could only explain things here. The next afternoon, a tall and beautiful woman picked him up. This person is the eldest daughter Genesis of the He family, who is also considered a top beauty in the Sioux region. The He family is quite low-key in the Sioux region, but their strength is not inferior to the four major families. This family is a branch of the He family. The head of the family, He Granny, has some connections with his master. So when he arrived in the Sioux region, he visited the He family for the first time and helped treat He Granny's illness. This made the He family owe him a favor. The result is that such a valuable favor was used in such a trivial place, making him feel like dying. The man was reborn as the villain in a novel. He just broke free from the sparks between his current girlfriend and his ex-girlfriend. Then he learned that his good friend's old house had been altered in terms of feng shui. Theo knew. Chris was getting ready to take over the Qin family. Unexpectedly, Theo had just arrived at the antique shop when he encountered Chris and Ivy. He quickly hid behind a cargo container, deliberately turning his back to the two people to avoid being recognized. Ivy, as the eldest daughter of the Chin family, is a very famous beauty in the Sioux region. However, she looks extremely haggard today. The reason for this expression is because the Chin family has recently encountered some unknown issues. The whole family is not sleeping well, and they are having nightmares once they fall asleep. After some time, everyone's health has been affected. Therefore, everyone in the Chin family suspects that there might be an issue with the feng shui at home. Ivy came to the antique market today to see if there are any good items that can improve the feng shui. Unexpectedly, she encountered Chris on the way. Of course, this kind of encounter was deliberately arranged by Chris. She hasn't known Chris for long. Last time, a snake somehow crawled into her house, which scared her to death. Chris happened to be patrolling in the neighborhood. He rushed over when he heard the screams. After helping her deal with the snake, that's how they met. Thanks to you for coming up with this. Throwing a snake into someone's house on purpose and then playing the hero. I have never seen someone as shameless as you. If it weren't for your unscrupulous behavior, would the Chin family's feng shui be in trouble? You should go act in movies. You are simply wasting your talent. Ivy, who was choosing antiques, suddenly heard a series of sounds. She couldn't help but look stunned. But looking around, there was no one speaking beside her. Yet, the voice sounded somewhat familiar. What worried her even more was that there was too much information contained in these few sentences. She was very clear that these words all pointed towards Chris beside her. She couldn't help but glance at Chris, a hint of doubt flashing in her eyes. Chris looked at Ivy, staring at him blankly. He chuckled more confidently and said, "The feng shui in your house must have attracted malignant qi. Let's do this. I have an amulet here. Take it back and wear it first. See if it can improve the situation." This amulet was learned from a master. It took 3 months to make. You're just talking nonsense without thinking. This thing can be scribbled randomly. Poor Ivy fell for it, and stupidly believed that this man was sent by God to save her. After hearing the voice again, Ivy finally confirmed that it wasn't just an auditory hallucination. Someone was actually speaking to her. However, it seemed that only she could hear this voice. At the moment, she felt a bit angry. If all of this was true, then no one should blame her for being impolite. However, she wouldn't rush to confront the situation without evidence. Ivy disguised her expression well, accepted the talisman, and thanked softly. After they left, Theo walked out from behind the cargo container. After looking around, his gaze landed on a jade talisman. The jade talisman is carved in the shape of yin-yang fish. It looks vivid and lifelike, truly a masterpiece deserving of everyone's admiration. Following the original plot, it won't be long before Chris comes to the store to buy back this yin-yang fish jade talisman. This is his crucial prop. This item can absorb all malignant qi. According to the novel setting, Chris is capable of anything. He is well versed in feng shui, medicine, gambling, and stone gambling. So this thing can only be used by him to solve the problem. However, just watching Chris successfully take down the Chin family like this, Theo must be quite unhappy. He can't just stand by and watch his own brother be played to death by this bastard and have the family business taken away. After some thought, he decided to make a decision that went against his ancestors. He called Uncle Jose over. "Take a good look at this yin-yang fish jade talisman for me. Nobody can know about this except a guest named Chris. This crucial item must still fall into Chris's hands to resolve the crisis of the Chin family. So, there can be no mistakes in this matter. Otherwise, the plot will always collapse. He has to make an effort." Uncle Jose nodded. He felt that the name Theo mentioned sounded familiar. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly realized. Isn't this the bastard who competed with Theo for a woman? It is said that as long as you give him a strong beating, Theo will promote you to work overseas with a raise as a leader. Could it be that this is an opportunity from heaven for me? The man was reborn as the villain in the novel. In order for the plot to progress smoothly, he could only help the male lead complete the hero saves the beauty storyline first, allowing him to successfully get the yin-yang fish and remedy the Qin family's malignant chi problem. Unexpectedly, his subordinates are all henchmen. Uncle Jose decides to cause more trouble in order to get promoted and a pay raise. He immediately took out the yin-yang fish jade talisman from the cabinet. Then he went to find an identical piece of jade talisman, which was the yin talisman among the yin talisman and yang talisman. The yang talisman is used to eliminate malignant chi. The yin talisman is used to nourish malignant chi. After swapping the two items, he placed the yin talisman inside the cabinet and adjusted the price to 30 million. Satisfied with all these arrangements, he returned contentedly to the front of the cabinet. After waiting for about half an hour, Chris indeed walked in from outside. Upon entering, he walked around the shop and eventually came to the display counter of the yin-yang fish jade talisman. When he came in with Ivy just now, he spotted this item at a glance. He knew it was a good item to deal with malignant chi. Originally, he had intended to resolve the issues of the Qin family without needing these props. He could handle it on his own. But what he didn't expect was that the feng shui of the old Qin family residence was indeed a bit too good. This kind of feng shui layout, gathering wind and storing water like a golden waistband, after he tampered with it, the speed at which malignant chi accumulated was somewhat exaggerated. But when he saw the price, his face changed slightly. You guys are robbing money at your store. This thing is priced at 30 million. Boss, we're not trying to rip you off. Yesterday, a feng shui master from Hong Kong said this thing is a treasure. He's coming to buy it tomorrow. If you want it, take it. If not, forget it. I'll sell it to anyone. Upon hearing that someone else also wants this item, Chris couldn't help but change his expression slightly. After pondering for a moment, he ultimately decided to bite the bullet and pay for it. On the other hand, since Zoe came last time to treat Wang Grandpa's illness, the Wang family has gradually recovered. After finishing his meal today, Wang Grandpa was about to practice calligraphy with a brush in hand. Before he could finish writing the first character, the brush suddenly fell from his hand. Immediately, he covered his chest and sat down on the chair. His body kept trembling violently. The private doctor quickly arrived to examine Grandpa Wang. Upon receiving the news, members of the Wang family also hurried over. Seeing Grandpa lying pale-faced on the bed, they all became extremely nervous. After the examination was completed, Shirley quickly inquired about the situation. The doctors looked somewhat puzzled and expressed that Grandpa Wang's condition was a bit critical. His organs were starting to fail gradually, but they couldn't identify the specific cause. They suggested that Zoe be summoned immediately. After Zoe arrived, they quickly began to examine Grandpa Wang's body. They examined for a while. A look of confusion appeared on her face involuntarily. Grandpa's current condition is very critical, but she couldn't pinpoint the issue. Seeing Zoe's puzzled expression, Shirley also started to feel a bit anxious. The members of the Wang family nearby were also feeling anxious and bewildered. Zoe's expression looked quite awful. I can't find out what the problem is. But Grandpa's current condition is indeed very critical. If it is not resolved within a day. Noah, who was standing at the back of the crowd, had a look of relief in his eyes. Just after Zoe arrived, he felt extremely nervous in his heart. He was afraid that Zoe would discover some problems. Last time, he wanted to cooperate with Chris to freeze the Wang family's liquid funds in order to drive Shirley out of the power center and successfully advance his own position. The plan unexpectedly failed for some reason. Shirley not only noticed some clues, but also turned around and bit Chris. Shirley did not seem to want to cause trouble afterward. He thought it was just a small coincidence. His identity has not been revealed yet. As for today's scene, of course, he was the one who took action. After Chris saw the plan fail, he came up with another plan for him, which was to directly target Grandpa. In this way, once Grandpa is out of the picture, the issue of the inheritor will need to be settled. According to family rules, ultimate power within the family still lies in the hands of male heirs. Without Grandpa's protection, Shirley's power cannot be maintained. Shirley asked bitterly. What should we do now? Should we ask your master to give it a try? Zoe shook her head and said, I can't figure it out. Even if Grandpa comes, it may not help much. But finding someone to come over might be able to help me. Who is that? Theo. The man, reborn, turned into the villain in the novel. He found out that the plot of the novel collapsed halfway through. Grandpa Wang, who was originally supposed to live a healthy life until the end, now hangs by a thread. Even Zoe couldn't find any reason. In the emergency, Zoe remembered the last time she overheard Theo's heart. She found out that he would be reaching the extraordinary realm of the heavenly scripture of the green sack, so she asked Shirley to bring him over. After Theo rushed over, he instinctively focused his attention. His gaze swept back and forth on Wang Grandpa's body. Finally, he discovered a golden thread in the area of the old man's heart. Strange. What is this golden thread? How could it be wound around Wang Grandpa's heart? It's moving. Isn't this Chris's golden silkworm goo? This thing is extremely cunning. Once it enters the human body, the host will undoubtedly die within 24 hours. After death, this thing will even self-destruct and dissolve. No evidence can be found. If you want to save Grandpa Wang, either Chris comes in person to resolve the goo, or try the secret formula from the heavenly scripture of the green sack. Make incense from 11 medicinal herbs such as mugwort, cloves, and cinnabar. Let's find a way to remind them later on. We must not let Grandpa Wang die. After hearing Theo's heartfelt words, Shirley and Zoe's expressions changed immediately. And when the two of them noticed each other's changed expressions simultaneously, they instantly guessed one idea, that each other could also hear Theo's heartfelt words. Zoe quickly wrote down the list of medicinal herbs she had just heard, and then sent someone to fetch the herbs. Shirley also breathed a sigh of relief. She asked everyone to leave the room first. Then she grabbed Theo's arm and walked towards the nearby small garden. After they reached the small garden, Shirley pulled Theo to sit down and asked, I feel that something is wrong with my grandfather. His health was fine before. Suddenly, it's very likely that he was poisoned. What do you think? Theo nodded in agreement. It's not poisoning, he was planted with a goo. The golden silkworm goo needs to get close to the target to be used. If Chris didn't personally do it, it's probably that idiot Noah. Such a person is also a brainless idiot. Colluding with an outsider thinking they can become the head of the Wang family. Shirley's eyes instantly turned cold. Sure enough, it's pretty much as she suspected. It's that foolish Noah causing trouble behind the scenes again. Last time, the reason she chose to keep him wasn't because she didn't have evidence on hand. She just didn't want to alert the enemy. She wants to use Noah's stupidity to set up Chris. I didn't expect him to be so audacious and dare to go after Grandpa. Since that's the case, there's no need to keep him as bait anymore. When they returned, a pungent smell filled the room. Wang Grandpa had already regained consciousness. Zoe used the prescription she obtained from Theo to treat the old man. After that, the goo worm crawled out and died on its own. After everyone came over to express their concern and warm wishes for a while, they let the old man rest alone in the room. Theo had just walked out of the room when his phone started ringing. Glancing at it, he saw that it was a call from Elias. You said you were called to my house to do feng shui. Hurry up and come over. Many people have already arrived today. Theo responded with a sound and then hung up the phone. He said hello to Shirley and hurriedly drove to the Chin family. Following the original plot of the book, today Chris is going to put on a show here and take on the identity of the #1 feng shui master in the Sioux region. As soon as Theo left, Shirley asked everyone to gather at the Wang family ancestral hall, indicating that there was a major announcement to be made. At this point, the nervous Noah, who was feeling guilty like a thief, also became tense. Could it be that he had noticed someone tampering with his grandfather? However, he He wasn't too worried because he wasn't concerned about his own identity being exposed. Chris taught himself very covert means of planting goo. It will definitely not be discovered. After everyone arrived at the ancestral hall, Shirley called Noah, who was standing on the edge, to come out. She made him kneel down in front of the ancestors. Shirley stared at Noah and questioned, "The new energy project that our company collaborated with F Company on a while ago almost caused us heavy losses. Today, Grandpa was framed with planting goo. You were the one behind it, weren't you?" Noah was instantly scared pale, shaking his head vigorously. The others also found it somewhat unbelievable. Shirley clapped her hands and said, "I'll just have the witness come up." The man was reborn as the villain in the novel. He found out that the male lead actually framed Wong Grandpa in a power struggle. Theo used the heavenly scripture of the green sack to rescue him once again. And in the process, Shirley learned through Theo's thoughts that this was done by Noah. She then gathered everyone at the Wong family shrine to expose his true identity. Shirley clapped her hands and had the bodyguard bring Dylan in. Dylan, with a fearful expression, knelt on the ground. He watched as everyone explained the situation in detail. Now there is both eyewitness and physical evidence. His father instantly flew into a rage, rushing forward and landing a punch on his face. After Noah was beaten to the brink of death by his father, Shirley finally spoke up to stop it. She instructed the bodyguards to lock Noah up, and then said to everyone that this incident couldn't be entirely blamed on Noah. He is foolish. But there are others who are even more sinister. Revenge must be taken on him. Everyone agreed to this. Soon the Wong family began to search for people. Chris's whereabouts were being prepared for retaliation. At the same time, all the businesses under the Wong family started firing at LC Company. The Qin family is very lively at the moment. Because 2 days ago, the Qin family suddenly released a message inviting feng shui masters from all over to come and solve their family's problems. As long as anyone can resolve it, there will be a reward of 1 billion. So feng shui masters from all over the country rushed over, gathering together just to solve the difficulties of the Qin family today. When Theo drove over, he happened to see Chris getting out of the car. After he got out of the car, Ivy was already waiting for him. Chris smiled and asked if the amulet he gave himself was useful. Ivy nodded, but her eyes looked somewhat complex. In order to verify Theo's sincerity, she secretly broke open the amulet this morning. Inside, there was indeed a haphazardly drawn talisman with a dried-up drop of blood on it. Ivy must have been startled by the amulet, that silly girl. Luckily, I showed great mercy this time. Later, I will kindly help you expose his true colors. Just when she was puzzled, that familiar voice sounded again. She looked around but couldn't find the source of the voice. But this excited her because today all the truth is about to be revealed. If the benefactor who told her all this is here, she must thank him well. When the two of them walked in, Theo slowly got out of the car. After he got out of the car, he did not see Elias but noticed Uncle Jose lingering at the door. After Chris bought the Yin-Yang Fish Jade Talisman last time, he was considering where this guy would use it. After receiving the news from the Qin family, he finally understood. It turns out this kid wanted to show off and impress girls at the Qin family. So, he decided to come here to make a good impression. Who made this kid offend Theo? He accomplished this today. That's a reward of 10 billion. At this time, Elias also ran over. The three walked in side by side. In order to keep a low profile, Theo deliberately sat down in a corner position. Not long after, the head of the Qin family, Samuel, came out with several bodyguards. He thanked everyone for gathering to help solve the difficulties of the Qin family. As long as any master can solve the problem today, I will hand over a 1 billion check with both hands. And you will always be an honored guest of the Qin family. His words were like a shot of adrenaline for the masters, who were all energized. 10 billion seemed within easy reach. At this moment, a middle-aged man stepped forward. He loudly declared, "Everyone, please be quiet. Listen to me. Instantly, all eyes turned to him. This person is the current master of Dragon Tiger Peak, and his strength is quite formidable. However, he encountered the protagonist's plot armor, and had no choice but to become cannon fodder, suffering a miserable defeat. Ethan looked at everyone and said, "Everyone, there is only one reward today, but there are so many of us here. We can't all take action together. In that case, how should we divide this reward? So, I believe that this reward should be earned based on one's abilities. I will step forward here to accept everyone's challenge. If anyone can defeat me, I will leave immediately. If no one can defeat me, then I will accept this reward." His arrogant attitude has made many feng shui masters extremely angry. At this moment, the head of the Song family, William, stepped forward. The man is reborn as the villain in the novel. He just survived 2 plotlines. He learned that his brother's residence feng shui was disrupted by the male lead, causing malignant qi to accumulate. Everyone's health was affected. To address this, the Qin family offered a $1 billion reward and invited feng shui masters from all over to come and resolve the issue. Ethan came out first to set up the challenge platform. William also took the lead, throwing up a string of copper coins in his hands. Then he formed hand seals with both hands. The copper coins that flew into the air actually floated up and formed a formation on their own in the air. After seeing this scene, everyone cheered for him one after another. Ethan's face showed disdain. He raised his hand, and with a light shout of, "Sword come!" the master sword flew into the air on its own. It then chopped down all the copper coins one by one. William's heartache was so intense that he almost vomited blood. This was his family's treasured heirloom. After William was defeated in the battle, a long-haired old man stepped forward. This person is well known in the mysterious sects of the North, and is respectfully called Elder Kuei Star. Elder Kuei Star gave a cold snort. A red string floated up in his hand, with a faint flame glowing on it, resembling a fiery serpent. But Theo, who had already seen the plot, couldn't muster much interest. According to the storyline, the old man will lose to Master Ethan, and then Master Ethan will have a conflict with Chris. After Master Ethan's plan fails, it will be Chris's turn. Ivy, this silly girl, starts to admire him from here. After Ivy heard the voice in her heart again, her gaze quickly locked onto Elias. Then she saw Theo sitting next to him, and instantly remembered that it was his voice. She was shocked in her heart, but her face remained calm. She wanted to see if it was really as Theo said. At this moment, Elder Kuei Star has started to compete with Ethan. The red string he controlled transformed into a fire snake and shot towards Ethan. But Ethan just sneered. When the fire snake flew towards him and reached in front of him, he just pointed with his hand. Surprisingly, the fire snake came to a halt on its own. Then he gave a light call. The fire snake unexpectedly flew back in reverse. Elder Kuei Star's face changed drastically as he admitted defeat. With this, no one else in the entire crowd dared to challenge Ethan. Ivy was already dumbfounded at this moment. Everything was exactly the same as what she had just heard in her mind. She quickly composed herself and looked at Chris before speaking. This Master Ethan is really amazing. His skills are like those of a deity. Chris scoffed disdainfully, saying, "These are just some unorthodox methods." As soon as he spoke, all eyes in the room turned to him. Sure enough, Ethan was greatly angered by his words. Many feng shui masters also began to curse. The eyes looking at Chris were as if they were looking at a clown. Samuel frowned, preparing to have the bodyguard kick him out. Ivy stood up quickly to intervene, took a protective talisman out of her pocket, and said, "Chris is a master I invited. This is the talisman he gave me. I've been sleeping soundly these past 2 days since wearing it. The truth has not come out yet. She can't let Chris leave." At this moment, Chris also stood up and expressed that only he could solve the Qin family's issue. This made Ethan extremely angry. He then instructed his disciples to bring out 3 incense burners. Each burner was inserted with 3 sticks of incense, but none were lit. Ethan began chanting a spell while simultaneously using hand gestures. When he finished the chant, the 9 sticks of incense instantly ignited. Immediately, smoke billowed and condensed into a gray humanoid figure in the air. Ethan smiled lightly, performed the 7-star steps with his feet, and stabbed the mist with the master sword in his hand. After he stabbed it with the sword, the mist seemed to emit a scream, startling everyone inside the house. Shortly after, within a few seconds, the mist dissipated on its own. The people from the Qin family also felt much more relaxed. But not long after, the recently dispersed malignant Qi gathered once again. After Ethan swung the master sword to counterattack twice, he was still invaded by the malignant Qi. His face turned pale, he spat out a mouthful of blood, fell to the ground, and started convulsing. The Qin family members, who had felt much at ease just now felt extremely uncomfortable. Samuel looked towards his daughter, and found that she didn't seem to have any problems at all. Is that talisman really effective? This young man is truly an extraordinary person beyond the ordinary world.